My name is Ida Olsonen, and I am here to help you improve on the music you make with your choir or vocal group. Today we're continuing on the topic of how to make a cappella groove. The first thing I'd like to talk about is something that I think of a lot when I compose or arrange music. Which tempo should the song be performed in? The yardstick of tempo is BPM, beats per minute. Many times the composer or arranger gives us their recommendations on a tempo, but other times there might only be a few words describing what the tempo should feel like, or in some cases, no instructions whatsoever. Whatever the case, as the performer, you should know what tempo you feel that the music works best in. When choosing the tempo, I would listen for two things. How does the lead with its lyrics work in different tempi? What's the optimal tempo for the lead? Secondly, find the rhythmically most dense section of the song. This could mean 16th notes, 8th notes, wherever there's most of rhythmic things happening. See how the different BPMs work in this area and how the feel changes according to BPM. Let's listen to the song of the week, On aika, päästää, irti. That's Finnish for It's Time to Let Go. The song is performed by Kipinät from Jyväskylä. Here's how the song sounds in the BPM that the composer, me, suggested to the group. The entire song with a beautiful live video is available at Kipinät's YouTube channel. The link is down in the description. Go and check it out and give them some love. Now, what if we change the tempo to, say, BPM 58? Or what about something faster? How did you feel about these different options? Were there a big difference for you or no difference at all? I'm sure that it's different for someone who hasn't actually written the music, so I'd love to hear your thoughts. For me personally, the slower one was far too slow. I felt like a resistance in the text. It became dreary in a way that's not really working for the song. The faster tempo, if I need to go for another tempo, that's probably what I would go for. These are, after all, matters of taste. Take this from someone who's done a fair share of stupid mistakes in the rehearsal room. You'd rather check the tempo more often when rehearsing than get stuck accidentally with the tempo that's not intended. Practicing the song in another tempo, either slower or faster than the intended performance tempo, is a good idea. Just bear in mind that the tempo is different enough to what you're heading for, so that your brain actually can make a difference between what's the rehearsing thing and what's the real performance thing. Now, the next thing is something that I really want to get across. The metronome is your friend, and a good friend for that matter. Now, I know that all of you aren't perhaps on good terms with this little fellow, but hang in there, let me explain. We humans are very susceptible for slight rhythmic leans back and forth. In this sense, the metronome gives us valuable insight and is actually a very reliable practicing partner. For band musicians, this is a non-brainer. They use the metronome all the time. But for some reason, we singers aren't accustomed or just culturally conditioned to use it in the same extent. I'm on a mission to change that. Depending on what you're hoping to improve, I've got slightly different rehearsal suggestions for you. If you're looking for strengthening your inner feel of that continuous pulse, or alternatively you haven't done that much work with a metronome yet, I suggest that you rehearse your song part together with an even beat on the metronome. In the case of our example, this would mean setting the metronome to 12/8 with the 8th note being 183 beats per minute. If this feels too hectic, take out the subdivisions and go for the 4 main beats in the bar. By the way, if you want to use the same app as I do, I have Pro Metronome with sound number 3 in my examples. If you're used to working with the metronome, or you feel that you tend to get a little bit lazy or too laid back within the beat, giving the metronome the responsibility of driving the music, I'd suggest to put the metronome on the upbeats in the bar. In 4/4, this would be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. But in 12/8, we have 2 options. 1 and a 2 and a 3, 4. Doom 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 doom. Or 1, 2, 3, 4. Doom 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 doom. And lastly, if you're keen to take off your training wheels, diminish the amount of main beats in the bar. So instead of having all 4 of them there, go for the 1 and the 3. Doom 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 doom. Or the 2 and the 4. 1, 2, 3. Doom 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 doom. Or perhaps even just 1 beat per bar. Doom 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 doom. Doom 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 doom. That's difficult. I hope that at least one of these options feels relevant and challenging for you. Experiment with either following the visual that the metronome provides or consciously looking away and trying to internalize the feeling instead. This pep talk,
the metronome is your friend,
is not about how great it sounds with your music, because it rarely does, nor am I claiming that all music should be driven by a metronome. I'm just pointing out that practicing with the metronome really improves your rhythmic overview and gives you options to choose how to relate to that pulse. If your ensemble can make their music feel good while singing with the metronome, well, then you're pretty much unbeatable in terms of groove. When we practice, we tend to get very focused on nailing the right pitches and the right rhythms of our assigned parts. Right rhythms often translates into right places to start the tones. I'd like to draw your attention to where you stop the note, or rather where you release it. Let's listen to an excerpt I've created of our example. On aika, päästää irti, ote irrottaa, Now I'd like to draw our attention to the bass line specifically and its releases. The releases of the bass line are on the second and the fourth main beat in the bar, main beats being dotted fourth notes in this case. That creates a subtle but impactful emphasis on those beats. How will the groove of the music change if we move those releases around? Compared to the original. I know it's a small change, but in terms of rhythm feel, adding longer bass notes really creates a completely different rhythmical beast. Suddenly we are in a lyrical, foggy place where everything floats around differently than before. As the composer of the music, I'd like to have the clarity of the second and fourth beat. Just listen to how the feel changes when we add releases on the second main beat. On the other hand, we could go shorter too. Wait, in for a penny, in for a pound. Let's shorten up the altos and tenor lines too. Without the lead, this sounds pretty blunt, but together with it, it creates a nice kind of a muted feel to the music. On aika, päästää irti, ote irrottaa hellästi. Now, in order for us to get to the bottom of this topic, we need to cover another matter. How is the tone released? Our first option is the soft release that doesn't have a clear sense of a cutoff. That's a gentle way of letting go of the tone, a kind of little diminuendo in the end of it. Our second option is the precise release with a silent cutoff. Thirdly, we have the precise release with an audible cutoff or a ghost note. This is commonly used for an added feel of a tight groove and preciseness. Most commonly, you can find it in sung bass lines or in the lead vocals of any contemporary pop music. As most things in the real world, these three categories are more of a pedagogical construct than rigid boxes that you're either in or out in. We have a ton of borderline cases and nuances within each category. Basically, there's no end to the nerdery. When now listening to our example from the perspective of the different ending types, we for sure get into that grey area. On aika, päästää irti, ote irrottaa hellästi. Do you agree with how I have labeled the endings? And is this the same audio I played to you to begin with? I hope this gave you new tools for when you're next time working on your a cappella song or listening to one. In next week's episode, we're talking about interpretation and connection. I hope to see you then. Along this video series, I'm releasing 4 songs that I've written specifically for vocal groups and choirs. For 4 weeks, I'll be releasing one song with sheet music and one tutorial video each week. Shout out to my friend Antti Saari, who kindly helped me with singing the tenor and bass parts to the example. A huge thank you to the lovely Kipinät and Kaisa Halmemies for collaborating on the Song of the Week. Go over and check the full music video on their channel. You'll find the links to all of this as well as how to get your own copy of the sheet music for free in the description box below. Thank you for watching the video. I hope it was useful to you. If you have any comments, questions, additions to the contents presented, please leave them down below. Bye!